Have you ever felt misunderstood or overlooked during a tough moment in your life? Really, think back on your life and ask yourself, where were my tough moments? And in those moments, did I feel misunderstood or overlooked? And if you can think of one of those times, I want to ask you, would your life have been different if someone would have taken the time to understand you and really work through that tough moment with you? So imagine if your students' challenging behaviors were their way of saying to you, will someone just see past my behavior and notice me? Today, my friends, I want to talk about how we can reflect on how we can look beyond the surface of the actions of our troubled students and recognize their worth and meet their deeper needs, just as God has done for us.
Welcome to the next episode of Monday Mindset Matters. These quick meet-of-the-moment episodes offer you some tools and biblical encouragement to help you, the Christian educator, no matter what role you have on campus, stay connected, stay grounded, and stay prayed up so you can be the light in the middle of this trauma-responsive movement. So, let's get right to it. Welcome to the Society's Child podcast, where we have real conversations about being a trauma-responsive educator in the midst of a significant mental health crisis. Hi, I'm Trish Senzak, a former educator, compassion advocate, and Jesus lover, and I'm so grateful that you're here. Are you feeling confuzzled about your students' behavior and needs? You're not alone. If trauma-informed strategies leave you wondering, what's next? Don't worry. My friend, I've been there too. As a foster mom and a child of complex trauma mixed with my experience as a teacher, it's led me to finding a compassionate, whole child approach that's evidence-based, practical, and transformational, and I'm so eager to share it with you. Whether you want to connect with your students on a deeper level, create a trauma-sensitive environment, or you just need a little bit of encouragement or support, you're in the right place. So grab a drink, a pen, or your earbuds, and let's work together to create a safe and student-attuned trauma-responsive school culture. Society's children need you, so let's get started.
Welcome to today's episode of Society's Child, and I hope today that I'm able to leave you with a little bit of a perspective change and maybe some hope that every educator has felt, even when you're feeling discouraged by the tough, difficult days that are happening in your classroom. You see, in Matthew 18:10, Jesus reminds us, "See that you do not despise one of these little ones, for I tell you that their angels in heaven always see the face of my Father in heaven." And in this verse, Jesus is teaching us about humility and care for others and the value of childlike faith in the kingdom of heaven. He's using a child as an example here, but he emphasizes true greatness and how it comes from humility and a willingness to care for the vulnerable. My friends, the kids sitting in front of you who are troubled, they're vulnerable youth. They're the ones that need us to step in a little bit more. In verse 10, he warns against dismissing or despising these little ones, children or those with simple dependent faith. He's reminding his followers that these individuals are deeply cherished by God, and they have angels who advocate for them before God and the throne. So, my friends, this verse underscores God's attentive care and priority for protecting and valuing the vulnerable. And this is what I want to ask you to do today. This is how it relates to us. This is a powerful reminder to see every student, especially those with behavioral or emotional challenges, as inherently valuable to God. He wants us to see them for their worth. It calls teachers to approach their work with humility and to respond with patience and kindness, even in the most difficult situations, by treating each student with care and respect that reflects God's heart, not our human hearts. He wants educators to participate in his redemptive work. And this is where we can work with our kids to nurture and guide these young minds and lives, thinking about eternal significance, and that we could be the only person in their life that might be doing this. This scripture is the heart behind the work that we do. We're supposed to value and protect these little ones, whether these children are humble or not. They have attitudes like they're tiny children that are humble. But many times this humility has been taken away from them because they're protecting their autonomy, and they need to get back to that. So your work is a divine partnership with God to help nurture them and bring them out of this state of protection. Guide these precious lives. Every student that you encounter, especially the challenging ones, they are also seen and loved by God also. So let me ask you for a moment of reflection here. How would it change your day if you approached each of your students, even the troubling ones, as God's beloved children? What would have happened for you way back in that tough moment I asked you to think about in the beginning if someone had approached you and looked at your worth instead of through the behavior or that tough moment? Would your life be different? This is where we are called, my friends, to humility and compassion for these kids. Whoever welcomes any of these children in my name welcomes me. And that comes right from Matthew 18, 1 through 5. Welcoming these children, even the hard ones. Teaching about humility reminds us to let go of our pride and our frustrations. Sometimes we get indignant about the behaviors and we forget the harder work of nurturing. And him talking about humility here is a reminder to us, even as educators, to put down what we think is right, what we expect, what we think is the way it should be, and go at this with a different set of gentleness and kindness and powerlessness, if you will. Humility helps us see these challenging students not as problems that we have to fix, but as souls that we can serve and help and understand and guide towards His shining light. So in this practical step, my friends, I want to call you to really look at each of these kids with the challenging behavior and look for the need behind the behavior. Ask yourself, what is this student communicating through the actions? You might not know, but dig, go and speak to somebody who can talk to you about trauma language and do some surmising and some detective work and figure out, get curious about what they could potentially be feeling or going through. And I would encourage you maybe even to start a behavior journal, track patterns, triggers, and moments of connection with these kids. And if you can track them, you might even begin to see a pattern of when they act a certain way, when you're feeling a certain way, when you're triggered a certain way, that's then making them respond a different way. I want to encourage you, friends, to persevere through the weariness. Let's not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we'll reap a harvest if we do not give up. That's Galatians 6:9. My friends, feeling exhausted or defeated, your work is not in vain. I get you. I get it if you're feeling that way. God promises us a harvest in time. We as educators may not see that, but if we keep planting the seeds of kindness, discipline, and understanding, we know that we set them out there in the world, and eventually these seeds, whether that takes years for them to be profitable, they eventually come up. So for right now, one practical thing you could be doing with these kids is simply celebrating the small wins. Write down one victory each day, no matter how small it is. Even if it means you're saying, hey, he stayed in his seat for 5 minutes without calling out. Hey, progress. That's worth celebrating. It's the little practical things. It's the little things that get us through the weariness of what we're doing. Remember, we have Philippians 4:13 we can recite to ourselves. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Mindset is key in responding well to these challenging behaviors. And the practical thing that we can do right there is simply begin our day with that. We know this particular child, she's walking in the room. We know that she's headed towards me. We know we're getting ready to say something. Reciting that to ourselves is one practical thing that will help us reflect God's love to our students and know that He strengthens us to do that work. So before you go into your classroom, before your kids get in there every day, here's a little tip. Go pray over each desk. Ask God for patience, discernment, and wisdom for dealing with these little wiggly bodies sitting in front of you. So what would change if you saw each tough moment as an opportunity to demonstrate God's grace? Would your classroom be different if we just shifted that mindset just a little bit? I want to encourage you to trust in God's long-term impact. I know that if we can train up these children in the way they should go, give them some language, treat them with trauma-informed lenses that help them have practical tools and strategies that they will use in their life, your influence shapes not only behavior but hearts and futures. It's not always just about academic success. It's about instilling values, resilience, and hope through the light that you are, through the way that you handle and respond to situations, through the way that you treat everyone equally and nurture in your classroom and be a safe place. I would encourage you, my friends, to keep a victory board where you jot down these small breakthroughs with your students. Sometimes it's so easy to focus on the negative and all of the big things happening, but if we can focus on one of these little things, it will remind us of the bigger picture, that we have victories right in front of us. How are you helping these children become who God has called them to be? How are they seeing the face of God through you? My sweet friends, educators, teachers, you have one of the most challenging yet impactful callings. The work you do shapes lives and hearts, and God sees every moment of it. So Matthew 18:10 reminds us that even the smallest, most challenging ones have immeasurable worth. So when you teach, discipline, and love, you're joining in God's redemptive work. Please don't forget that, my friends. I challenge you to see each of your students, yes, even the ones who push every button you have, through God's eyes. Choose to see their potential. Choose to see their worth, their need. Begin each day by asking God for strength and patience, and each day celebrating the small wins. He'll give it to you. So let me leave you with this. As I said, every seed you plant matters. Every act of patience and every word of love reflects Christ to a child who may desperately need it, and you can't always talk to them about it. So go forth, teach boldly, let your light shine brightly, go out with humility, compassion, and faith, knowing that you are doing God's work in the classroom.
I hope you found something encouraging and inspiring in this episode of Monday Mindset Matters. It is my hope that these episodes meet you right where you are, because your Monday mindset matters. More importantly, your mindset matters all the time. Remember, stay connected, stay grounded, and stay prayed up. Our kids depend on it. Hey, amazing educators, thanks for tuning in. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love for you to hit subscribe and leave a review. Even better, share this episode with a colleague. And hey, I'd love to connect with you on social media. You can even join my Facebook group for some extra support and a dash of inspiration. I've left all the links in the show notes. Until next time, my friend, remember, you're not alone on this journey. You've got this. Keep making a difference and stay teach-tastic.